Hey, what's good, everyone? What's good? This is Stormy B Man, and I am back with another edition of the Chop Session Kung Fu Edition Snake in the Eagle's Shadow. First off, I want to say shout out to the LDBC, Lions Den Boxing Community, New Media, and Liberated Perspective, a third eye view of the world. A particular title I'll pick out to talk about indiscriminately. I won't go through a host of films, just one film at a time. That way we can get a little more detail about the subject and the people affiliated with the production. And that way we can also just discuss the points of what made the movie great, what made it a classic, what made you come back to it more than one time, you know? Snake in the Eagle's Shadow was produced in 1978, and it starred Jackie Chan at a time when Jackie was most known for being a Hong Kong stuntman. He had a couple of starring roles thanks to film director Lo Wei, who gave him his first opportunity as a leading man. Lo Wei had signed Jackie to his independent film company, and he had from 1975, produced a succession of films starring Jackie, such as To Kill with Intrigue, Shaolin Wooden Men, The Killer Meteors, New Fist of Fury, and a film called All in the Family. These were all Hong Kong productions where Jackie had an opportunity to not only just star in the film, but he also ran the action choreography for the films. They were modest films made for low budget, and it was in the immediate area after the passing of Bruce Lee where Hong Kong was just looking to do something to bring the audiences back to the theaters. With the loss of Lee, the biggest star they had had in a number of years, films kind of shifted to find their way. Uh, a lot of films were trying to recreate the action that he did on screen, and even with guys imitating Lee's particular screen persona, where Jackie was such a physical, uh, different type of star than Lee, uh, cutting his teeth primarily as a stuntman. But Jackie came up in the Seven Little Fortunes opera troupe, along with Yuen Biao, Yuen Hua, uh, Sammo Hung, and many others who had gone on to fame in the late 70s and early 80s in the Hong Kong action industry. A lot of these men were a part of Lee's productions as stuntmen behind the scenes. A lot of the men that you saw him punching and kicking in a lot of the action scenes were these gentlemen, including Jackie Chan. So they sought to find a new star, and independent filmmaker Yuen Wo-ping wanted to break out with a new type of action film. He thought he'd come up with something that would require the physical talents of some of these action stars. Most of the Hong Kong leading men were, touted as like the handsome guys or whatever that would carry a film, but a lot of them didn't have martial arts background. They were taught action moves on the set, and that's how the films were made back then. They didn't start trying to find guys who could actually do the action to put them in the leading roles until after Lee had passed away. So Jackie, who was definitely at the top of the hill as far as his physical attributes, was considered someone who could do these stunts, and as well as with his film background, he had been on so many productions. He knew his way around a film set, but he was not the director's first choice. The director's first choice for Snake in the Eagle's Shadow was Hong Kong film star Alexander Fuxing. Fuxing was an actor who was contracted with Shaw Brothers Studio, and he had made action films such as Invincible One, Shaolin Avengers, uh, The Chinatown Kid, Heroes 2, and Fuxing had definitely had a fan base and an audience that followed him religiously. He was extremely popular. But there was one hang up here. When he was signed with Shaw Brothers Studios, Run Run Shaw, the mogul of the Mandarin film circuit in Southeast Asia, signed his movie stars to long, drawn-out contracts. And he didn't believe in letting any of his stars out, even for independent work or anything like that. They were bound by contracts for 7 years. And Fuxing was in the midst of a lengthy contract with the Shaw Studio, so he couldn't work for Yuen Wo-ping. He couldn't have that opportunity to star in Snake in the Eagle's Shadow, and he would not be able to have a breakout on his own in that respect. That was something that would have changed the course of history in Hong Kong cinema had Fuxing been able to do that. Well, that's how Jackie got his chance. Even more so than Fuxing, who was extremely athletic, but not as versed in the acrobatics as Jackie Chan was. But he had far more charisma, far more cult fan following, and the ladies liked Fuxing. So Jackie was given this opportunity, and he made the most of it. Snake in the Eagle's Shadow has Jackie playing a misfit that's a part of a martial arts school where everyone uses him as a punching bag. He's like a kid that cleans up the school and everything, and he's not respected at all. He's like an orphan who's been taken in. And through a series of happenings, he runs across a veteran uh, in the kung fu world who is on the run from a hired killer. They cross paths, and the two of them, the elder statesman, the Hong Kong guru, and Jackie, they are like misfits who kind of click together, and they befriend one another. And the old guy, after nearly being killed at one point and saved by Jackie and nursed back to health, he decides to help Jackie out by teaching him some of his kung fu. This gave Jackie's character an opportunity to feel better about himself and everything. And the old man, the style he taught was a snake fist style. The snake fist style was actually developed for this film. A lot of people don't know that. They think that that style may have been around way before that or whatever, but not necessarily. Some of the movements and everything were really recreated at the time this film was made, and it got very popular to the degree that from that point on, you had snake fist films. Veteran Hong Kong Korean actor Wong Jing Lee played the villain in this film. And Wong Jing Lee was a superior martial artist who worked in the Hong Kong industry and the Korean film industry during the 70s and the 80s. And he was a kicking master. He was a fist master, fist fighting master. Wong Jing Lee looked excellent on film. One of the greatest misses in Hong Kong film history was the fact that he never crossed paths with Bruce Lee cinematically, because he could match Lee, blow for blow with whatever it would have done with choreography between the two. They were superior martial artists, the two of them. Wong Jing Lee also had the history of having killed a man with a single kick to the head back before he got involved in films, and he taught the police forces in his country and Secret Servicemen. Wong Jing Lee was a hell of a kung fu and martial artist statesman. Uh, in this film, he is the Eagle Fist master, and he's pitting his Eagle Fist against anyone that from the Snake Fist school, and he's looking to wipe them out. So it's basically a school against school type plot here, where leads for lots of fights, and boy, they don't disappoint. Uh, there are veteran martial artists in this film. And they all come together to provide audiences with the type of action that had not really been seen before. Extremely long takes in their actions, and also wide shots where up to 70 moves were made, between the combatants. This was the type of action choreography that came into play that put the Hong Kong film industry and audiences on notice of what putting realistic fighters before the cameras could do. And this type of action would carry the industry through the rest of the 80s. And even today, some of these men are still around in their older ages, playing old masters and in action films because they could still do the action. These men were professional. They went about their work with no problem whatsoever. It was exciting watching men like this work their craft. The thing about Jackie and Simon Ewan, who played the old master who teaches him the snake fist style, I apologize, brothers and sisters, that my buffering problems have started during the middle of this stream. But I am going to continue to stay the course and run this to its end. What I wanted to say about Simon Ewan, that played the old master here, he's a veteran of the film industry, and he was a veteran of the film industry, and he is actually the father of the Yuan clan, the Yuan Wu Ping, and his brother, where they made a lot of films in Hong Kong, both as action choreographers as well as behind the scenes stunt men. And Simon began to enjoy the payoffs of success after his popularity as the old master in Snake in the Eagle Shadow and as the drunken master in the follow-up film to this, Drunken Monkey in the Tiger's Eye, also known as Drunken Master. The films that he made playing this type of character was so popular that almost every role he would play the old master, and he even developed a name for the character associated with the character. So High was the name of the character in Drunken Master, and then also Sam Seed, a popular name in the US dubs of the films, and that name and moniker stuck with him for the rest of his career. He actually died in 1979 after his health had failed him. He had begun to make so many films back to back. I think he wore himself out because he was already a senior age performer by the time the success had started coming his way. He was doing a film with Sammo Hung, the Magnificent Butcher, where he was cast as another elderly master to teach Sammo's character in that film. And they had done some test footage and even began to pre-production on the film when Simon Ewan passed away. And so they had to recast the role, and another actor was brought in to play the role, and the stunts were performed by his son. All the acrobatic movements and everything associated with the role. So that's what happened with Simon Ewan. Jackie Chan, of course, would go on to make more successful films, and Snake in the Eagle's Shadow was his breakout role. But the fact that Jackie could perform at such a high level of acrobatics, weaponry, and memorizing the techniques for choreographed movements on film, Jackie could do choreography tirelessly. He had a way of his body movement and everything. He could take impact. He could execute movements, and they really used almost every bit of his talent in these films, and it really comes through. One of the things, as he began to become a superstar in the industry, he would tone back on the martial arts techniques of his film and go more with realistic action. The old Western type of roundhouse punches, low kicks, using objects and everything as weapons, table legs and this and that. He got away from the martial arts aspect of his action, and it just became Hong Kong action. That was because Jackie was so tired of doing kung fu. He was just trying to be innovative and do new things, and it paid off for him. Plus, it helped him make a path away from the Lee-like movements on screen. And as he said in so many different interviews, he just tried to be different from Bruce Lee. If Bruce Lee kicked high, he would kick low. If Bruce kicked or punched a guy with extreme force, and knocked the guy down, Bruce would make these sounds and everything. And Jackie said when he punched a guy, he'll go, "Ow, I hurt my hand," or he did everything almost the opposite of Lee, including how he lived off screen. And his life was much more enriched as a result of it. So it's something to be said about Jackie, how he approached his career. And even to this day, he's still going strong in his late 60s, early 70s. So something to be said about that. Snake in the Eagle's Shadow has a few other actors in it who are familiar faces. Kung fu actors such as Roy Horan, Tino Wong. We've seen these guys in other films like The Snuff Bottle Connection. These guys are action stars that you have seen around in Hong Kong films. Dean Shek, who always played an annoying guy behind the scenes, of the actions that are taking place. He's always betraying people or he's like a villain, Dean Shek, and he's for comedy relief. Also a great Hong Kong actor in his own right, because he was very convincing in his roles, and he was very popular at the time. Also a talented film director as well. These films carried so much talent before and behind the cameras. It was like people, they only see the finished result, when you see the guys fighting on screen and everything. But what went into it? Long days, choreography that went on for weeks at a time just to shell out a film that probably took a month to make. But take after take after take to get certain stunts correct, get them down pat. These men were real troopers in what they did, and they were extremely athletic. Uh, these films were a great, alternative to American action films, where during that era we had a lot of the, action films that, it may have had, guns and a few punch outs or something. So these films were seeing these guys do these athletic movements and everything. It brought something fresh. And that's why they became popular and cult like here in the US. Chuck Norris his film career didn't take off till the early 80s. So even he wasn't doing martial art films at the time, you know. So um, I want to take a moment to acknowledge people in the chat. I see Mark Wunderlich was out there, the African sci-fi scholar, who said, "Salute, bro. That's a classic. My uncle had tapes back in the day." He said, "I think there was another called Monkey Shadow." Well, no, it's Snake in the Monkey Shadow was a sequel, a semi-sequel to this film, Snake in the Eagle Shadow, and that starred John Chang, and he's also a well-known Hong Kong movie actor. Sorry about the little bit of buffering, family. I won't be on much longer with this, but I do want to finish this stream. I see 78 has stopped in and said salute to you, brother, if you're still out there. I was talking about Snake in the Eagle Shadow, trying to give people a little bit of background on the film, some of the stars and activities that went on around the production. Um, it's a classic film and was Jackie Chan's breakout film. Although he had made films prior to this, even as a leading man, it took this film and the comedy aspects of it, and he teaming up with a veteran uh, elder statesman in the Hong Kong film industry, Simon Yuen, who played the old master of the Snake Fist. It took them coming together to create something new that the Hong Kong audiences had not seen, and it became very popular. Matter of fact, Lee Yin Min, who was another acrobat and Hong Kong film star, would later go on and make films similar to Jackie's films. There was like a copycat of what Jackie was doing, where he would get together with an old master who would show him the arts, and then he'd come back and defeat the villain of the film. But this was the initial film that showed audiences what happened with this, and that was what was so outstanding about Snake and the Eagle Shadow. It gave audiences something that that didn't exist prior to it. And then even Drunken Master came along as the next film that these people who worked on this film, almost all the cast came back. It wasn't a sequel, it was a totally different film because Drunken Master featured Jackie playing a young Wang Fei Hung, who is a historical kung fu figure in Chinese history, and I will do a video on that film at a later time. But I just wanted to take the opportunity out to talk about Snake in the Eagle Shadow because of its significance. A lot like Bruce Lee's Big Boss that shot Bruce Lee to overnight film stardom. That's what Snake in the Eagle Shadow did for Jackie. And he never looked back after this film. He went on to make classics such as The Young Master and Police Story, Project A, so forth and so on. And he became a real Hong Kong star as a result of those films and their successes. So But yeah, Jackie was one of the few Hong Kong stars who could really do it all. And he got his chance in the sun, and he was able to come up and become a person who was able to take the mantle as the king of the Hong Kong action. I just, in closing, I just like to say, I'm aside from the buffering, for everyone out there who joined me for this, thank you so much for stopping by. Stormy B Man is trying to iron out these kinks, and I never know until once I get going how this is going to respond. Right now, it's a data issue or something, according to me reading my analytics here. And I still got to get that ironed out. But I really appreciate the brothers who have come by and leave comments in my chat and, wish me well and everything. So just, continue to support me. I will get through these difficulties, and I will eventually bring you the type of content that, we look forward to providing. So, with all of that being said, this has been another episode of the Chop Session Kung Fu Edition featuring Snake in the Eagle's Shadow, okay, with Jackie Chan. This is Stormy B Man, and until we get a chance to chop it up again, I will say peace to you all, and thank you so much for stopping by.
Yo, start. Yo, mic check, mic check.
Yeah, I'm here, bro. I'm here.
Okay, yeah. Looking at the screen, because I'm on an app, and, of course it shows me